Hello everyone! We meet again in the latest episode of the love story between CEO James and Diep, a journey filled with tears, yet brimming with hope. In the previous episode, after a breathless rescue, Diep bravely took a fatal blow meant for James and fell into a deep coma. While John was captured, Diep was left fighting for her life, moment by moment. Would she ever wake up? Was there still hope for their dream wedding? And then a miracle happened. After days of unwavering devotion by her bedside, James's tender care and the relentless efforts of the doctors were finally rewarded. Diep woke up. Since then, James has never left her side, silently, gently, just as he has always loved her throughout everything. A love without promises, but strong enough to cross the boundary between life and death. Let's follow today's episode to see how their story continues. After Diep's health gradually recovered, the two returned to a peaceful, simple life in the serene countryside. No more tense moments, no more anxiety weighing down their chests now. There was only tranquility after the storm. That morning, James said goodbye to Diep and headed back to work. In the past weeks, due to the sudden and overwhelming turmoil, he had put everything on hold to take care of her. Now that things had finally calmed down, he could fully return to his role as a leader. That day, he went to inspect the plantation forest, the company's largest asset. Rows of trees stood tall under the morning sun, their strong trunks reaching skyward like his own unwavering will. James surveyed the growth and timber quality and discussed the upcoming harvest plan with his staff. He also met with partners to discuss market opportunities and negotiate prices. Unlike before, when he faced constant pressure and sabotage, this time everything went much more smoothly. Since John was arrested, the forces that once caused chaos had completely vanished. The company felt reborn, ready to embrace a new phase of growth. Beneath the lush green canopy, James paused for a moment, watching the golden rays of sunlight filter through the leaves. A sense of peace filled his heart like never before. Life had granted him a second chance, not just to start over, but to love more deeply and completely. In James's heart, distant ambitions no longer held sway. What he now longed for was simple: to build a solid life where every day he could return home to find Diep waiting on a porch, her gentle smile and tender gaze quietly reminding him, "You're no longer alone." While James was busy deep in the forest, tending to business matters back home, Diep, the gentle and diligent young woman, also didn't let time pass by idly. Every morning, after seeing James off to work, Diep would begin her day by tending to the small garden behind their house, a place she had poured her heart into, nurturing every plant, every row of vegetables, and every vine of flowers. Wearing a conical hat and carrying a woven basket, she quietly walked among the greenery, weeding, watering, her hands moving swiftly, her heart strangely at peace. Today was lychee harvest day, the fruit she had carefully tended through both sun and rain. The tall lychee trees, with wide canopies and branches heavy with ripe, crimson-red fruit, awaited her familiar hands. The lychees were perfectly ripe and plump, with a soft pink skin tinged with green, and a sweet aroma drifting gently in the early breeze. Even though the trees were tall, Diep nimbly climbed the ladder, taking each step with care. She skillfully plucked the clusters of fruit and gently placed them into her woven bamboo basket. Bathed in golden sunlight, her petite figure became a lovely, vibrant brushstroke against the lush green garden, a vision both tender and full of life. After filling several baskets, Diep sat under the shade of a tree, carefully selecting and bundling the finest lychee clusters. She then brought them to the village market, arranging them neatly under a small umbrella stall in the corner of the bustling marketplace. Her fruits were always favored not just for their sweetness, but for the meticulous, clean way she cultivated them. No chemicals, no preservatives, just sunlight, water, and love. No sooner had she set up than people began to gather. She smiled and chatted warmly with each customer. Some bought for their families, others to give loved ones. Even a nearby elderly lady stopped by just to compliment her. Such skillful hands. These fruits are fresh and clean. Who wouldn't want to buy from you? By late morning, all her lychees had sold out. Diep packed up neatly, carrying her now empty basket with joy in her heart. On the way home, she stopped by a small market to pick up a few ingredients she wanted to cook James's favorite soup to welcome him back after a long day. Walking slowly along the bamboo-shaded village path, the scent of ripe lychee clung lightly to her blouse. Her face beamed with happiness, and her eyes turned toward the little house in the distance where a man who loved her was always waiting. After selling all the lychees at the market, Diep returned home. She tidied up the kitchen, swept the floors, washed the bamboo baskets, and neatly arranged the miscellaneous items in the yard. From the best batch of lychees, she picked out a portion and carefully wrapped it in a white cloth. It was a small gift she wanted to bring to James's mother, the woman who had so lovingly cared for her during the time she was in a coma. When Diep arrived, James's mother was tending to her potted plants on the porch. Upon seeing her, the woman beamed. "Oh my Diep, what a lovely surprise! You look much better today." Diep nodded gently and walked over with respectful grace. "Hello, ma'am. I harvested some delicious lychees today and thought I'd bring some over for you to try." She was warmly invited inside. The two of them sat in the cozy living room as hot tea was poured, the delicate aroma wafting through the little kitchen. The atmosphere between them was intimate and warm, as if they had known each other for years. Looking at the woman with emotion in her eyes, Diep softly said, "While I was in the hospital, James told me you were very worried and even helped take care of me. I truly want to thank you." The woman gently took Diep's hand, her voice filled with affection. "You're the one James loves. How could I rest easy knowing you were lying there all alone? I only ever hoped for you to recover and live peacefully. That's all I ask for." Diep's throat tightened. She couldn't hold back her emotions as memories of her late mother flooded her heart. Her eyes welled up with tears. "I lost my mom when I was little, so hearing you say that it really moves me." Hearing this, the woman fell silent for a moment, then let out a quiet sigh. "I was orphaned young too, so I understand that emptiness. From now on, if you don't mind, consider me as family, a place you can always lean on." Diep bowed her head and smiled a smile that was both touched and grateful. After a while of talking, the woman gently offered, "Why don't you come live here with me for a while? I worry about you living alone. Besides, I still feel like things out there aren't entirely safe." Diep responded politely, her voice soft yet firm. "Thank you, ma'am. But I don't want to trouble you, and I also want to try to stand on my own, to be stronger and not rely too much on anyone." The woman gazed at her for a long moment, then nodded with a soft smile, though her eyes still held a trace of worry. "Then, if anything ever happens, don't hesitate to come back here. I already see you as part of this family." Before leaving, Diep calmly recounted how she had once been attacked by James's business rivals. She spoke honestly, without hiding anything, and even mentioned Tianj, the man who had shown up just in time to help her during that dangerous moment. Noticing the woman's silence, Diep gently added, "Tianji is just an old classmate of mine. We're only friends. I didn't want you to misunderstand in my heart. There's only one person, and that's James." The woman looked at her, her expression softening. A warm, gentle smile spread across her face, one full of trust, affection, and understanding. That afternoon, James returned home and found Diep sitting and talking with his mother. He walked over, sat beside her, and gently said, "You don't have to do everything on your own anymore. Come live near me. I want to take care of you." Diep smiled and softly shook her head. "I want to be independent. I was thinking of asking the neighbor if there's a decent place to rent nearby." James looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll go with you tomorrow. Let's find a place where you'll feel safe and comfortable." Diep knew the innent. Even though they wouldn't be living together, James's quiet yet steady care always made her feel warm and reassured. After that, James drove Diep back to her little house. On the way, they stopped at a high hill, one that offered a sweeping view of the vast fields glowing under the brilliant sunset. The breeze was gentle, the sky clear. Diep leaned her head on James's shoulder and softly said, "I wish everything could stay this peaceful forever." James held her hand, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, his voice steady with conviction. "We'll keep trying, building our future from the simplest things. As long as you're by my side, I believe nothing is impossible." The sun slowly dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the two figures sitting together on the breezy hillside. No grand words were needed. Through a look, a presence, James and Diep had said everything that mattered. The future still held uncertainties, but in that moment, they had each other steady and at peace. Will their journey of love continue forward? Have the trials truly come to an end? Stay tuned for the next episode where love will once again be tested. It might just lead to a beautifully complete happy ending. Diep smiled, her eyes shimmering with hope. In that fleeting moment, both of them seemed to glimpse a warm future unfolding before them, one where they could live in peace, side by side with nothing left to fear.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người. Lời đầu tiên cho phép mình xin cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì mọi người đã dành thời gian vô cùng quý báu của mọi người để xem hết video hôm nay. Và với tư cách là một người sản xuất video thì mình biết là mình có rất là nhiều thiếu sót, và mình hy vọng là khi bạn xem video này thì bạn sẽ đóng góp thêm ý kiến ở phần bình luận giúp cho mình để mình có thể hoàn thiện hơn và cũng như được trau chuốt hơn cho từng nội dung, từng video. Và nếu như mọi người đóng góp hay là phản ánh ý kiến gì thì mọi người cứ mạnh dạn để phần bình luận giúp mình nha, và mình sẽ đọc và sau đó là học hỏi cũng như là cảm nhận những cái đóng góp của mọi người và hoàn thiện hơn. Và mọi người ơi, nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh mình cũng như là yêu quý hai nhân vật Diep và Diệp thì mọi người hãy ấn like video hoặc là share video cho những người khác, và nhớ đăng ký kênh, bật chuông thông báo để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào nha.